All right, so you're getting ready for a coffee roaster interview.
Oh, nice.
That's exciting. We've got some RoleCatcher intel that we're going to dive into today.
Okay.
It's almost like a cheat sheet
Yeah.
to help you brew up some really good answers for this interview.
Uh-huh.
It's more than just saying, hey, I love coffee.
Right?
You have to show off your roasting expertise.
It's true. Interviewers want to see your passion, but they want to see that it's translated into skill and how you understand that journey from bean to cup.
So let's jump right in with a question that you're almost guaranteed to hear.
Okay.
Tell me about your experience in coffee roasting.
That's a good one. Where do we even begin?
It's such a broad question.
It is a broad question, but that can be a good thing
Okay.
because that gives you an opportunity to really hit the highlights.
Yeah.
So make sure you mention the types of beans you've roasted, different roasting processes you've mastered, equipment you're comfortable with.
So don't just list them, though,
Right?
right?
Don't just
Like, give a quick anecdote.
Yeah. Give an example.
Nice.
Like, for example.
Instead of saying, I've used a drum roaster, I could say something like, I've roasted Ethiopian Yirgacheffe beans on a drum roaster, and I love how it brings out the delicate floral notes.
Perfect. That's great. That shows you understand the connection between those three things. The bean, the process, and then what that final product is going to taste like. And, they might follow up with something like, what's your favorite bean to roast and why?
Oh, yeah.
Be ready to share what excites you about coffee.
I love that. Turning to like a really basic question
Yeah.
into a chance to show your passion.
Absolutely.
Now, how about this one? How do you ensure that the coffee beans are roasted to the desired level of roast?
Ooh.
It seems pretty straightforward, right?
Okay.
Time and temperature.
It seems straightforward, but it's kind of a trap.
Okay.
Of course, time and temperature are crucial.
Yeah.
But a really good skilled roaster goes beyond those basics.
Right.
So this is where you can really stand out and talk about your sensory schools. You use sight, smell, even sound to judge the roast.
So it's almost like this
It is.
sixth sense that develops.
Exactly. They want to know that you're not just following a recipe,
Yeah.
that you understand the nuances.
Uh-huh.
And they might even ask you to describe a time you had to adjust the roast based on what your senses were telling you.
Oh, wow.
So have a specific example ready that showcases your attention to detail.
So we're not just talking about hitting a certain temperature on a dial.
Yeah.
We're talking about listening to those beans.
Yes.
Looking at that color.
Yes.
Knowing when they're at their peak.
It's a feeling.
This next question is about freshness.
Okay.
So they might ask something like, how do you ensure that the coffee beans maintain their freshness after roasting?
Right.
Packaging and storage are key. But what else is there?
You're on the right track with packaging.
Okay.
So you're going to want to talk about different types of bags, ones with degassing valves.
Uh-huh.
Talk about how that helps preserve freshness.
Okay.
But think about storage conditions.
Oh, yeah.
Think about what factors impact the shelf life of roasted beans. Oxidation, light exposure, even temperature.
It's about being a guardian of those beans.
It is.
Protecting them from the element.
Yeah, protecting them from the elements.
This reminds me
Yeah.
that RoleCatcher can actually analyze job descriptions and highlight the key words that employers are looking for.
That's right.
So if they mention freshness or quality control in that job posting,
Yeah.
RoleCatcher can help you tailor your answers to emphasize those specific skills.
It's like a personalized study guide for that interview.
All right, let's tackle another classic. Have you ever had to troubleshoot a problem during the roasting process? If so, how did you resolve it?
Everyone makes mistakes,
Oh, yeah.
but it's all about how you handle them.
Right.
So have a specific example ready to go.
Okay.
One that really highlights your problem-solving skills.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to get technical here. Walk them through what went wrong, the steps you took to diagnose the issue, and how you ultimately fixed it.
So, like, did the airflow get disrupted? Did a temperature sensor malfunction?
Those are great examples.
No.
What happened?
Yeah.
So instead of just saying the roast went too dark,
Right.
you might say something like, I noticed the exhaust temperature was reading lower than expected, so I checked the airflow system and discovered a blockage. I cleared it, recalibrated the roaster, and I was able to salvage the batch.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You've shown that you understand the mechanics of the roaster.
Yes.
And you can think critically under pressure.
Absolutely. And, think about this as well. They might have some follow-up questions.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what did you learn from this experience?
Oh, yeah?
Or, how has this made you a better roaster?
Great point. So we're not just telling a story.
Yeah.
We're showing how we learn and grow from our experiences.
That's right.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. What about this question? How do you stay up to date with the latest coffee roasting techniques and trends.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It feels like a chance to really show you're not just here for a job.
Yeah.
You're here because you love this.
You're passionate.
Yeah, you're passionate about it.
It's about demonstrating that you're passionate about continuous learning
Yeah.
and that you're always trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Uh-huh. So how do you do that?
Well, you can start off by talking about the industry events you attend.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been to any conferences or trade shows recently?
Something like the Specialty Coffee Expo or Coffee Fest.
Those are great examples.
Yeah.
What about publications? Are there any industry magazines or journals you read regularly?
Like Roast Magazine.
Yes.
Or Perfect Daily Grind.
Excellent choices.
Yeah.
And don't forget about online resources, too.
Right.
Are there any websites or blogs or forums that you follow to stay informed about new trends?
It's about painting a picture of yourself as someone who's actively engaged in the coffee community.
It is, and who's
Yeah.
constantly seeking new knowledge and inspiration.
And maybe even if you have a mentor or someone you admire in the industry,
Absolutely.
you can mention that.
Name drop.
Yeah, name drop.
That shows that you are seeking guidance from experienced professionals.
Yeah, and I know RoleCatcher has that feature where you can practice your answers out loud
Yes.
and get feedback from their AI.
It's such a cool feature.
Yeah, I bet that's super helpful
Yeah.
for this type of question.
Especially for this one.
Just to make sure you're sounding natural and confident when you're talking about your passion.
It can also help you identify if you're rambling
Oh, yeah.
or if you're using jargon
Right.
that the interviewer might not understand.
Okay, let's tackle another crucial question. How do you ensure consistency in the roasting process?
Okay.
I mean, consistency is key in any culinary field,
Yes.
but especially when you're talking about something as nuanced as coffee.
You are absolutely right. Consistency is like the hallmark of a skilled roaster.
Yeah, so how do you ensure it?
Well, this question is all about your process and your attention to detail.
So where do we begin?
Let's start by talking about cupping sessions.
Okay.
How do you use them to evaluate and refine your roasts?
Uh-huh. Do you have specific cupping protocol you follow?
Yes. So you could mention something like the SCAA cupping protocol or the COE cupping form.
Okay.
And be sure to mention how you use those sensory skills during cupping
Okay.
to assess the aroma, the flavor, the acidity, the body, and the aftertaste of the coffee.
Oh, wow. So it's really,
The whole experience.
yeah, you're using all your senses.
All of them.
Yeah. And then maybe talk about how you monitor key metrics during the roast.
Yeah.
Like, do you use a colorimeter to measure the bean color?
Mhm.
Do you use a refractometer to assess that extraction yield?
That's great.
Yeah.
And then, of course, don't forget to mention those detailed roasting logs.
Right.
That shows that you are organized, you are meticulous, you are committed to tracking your progress over time.
It also allows you to identify trends and patterns
Let's-
so you can really fine-tune that roasting process
Mhm.
to consistently produce high-quality coffee.
Yes, and I think it's a good time to mention RoleCatcher again here,
Okay.
because their AI can help you
Yeah.
to fine-tune your answer.
How so?
Well, it can analyze your responses, and it will provide personalized feedback to help you to articulate your process clearly and concisely.
Okay.
And then you can even use their video practice feature
Right.
to record yourself answering the question and then get feedback on your delivery and your body language.
Oh, wow. So it's almost like having a virtual interview coach.
It is. It's like having one in your pocket.
This next question taps into your creative side. How do you approach developing a new roast profile?
Ooh, fun.
Yeah.
This is where you get to shine as a coffee artist.
Yeah, you get to experiment.
It's a beautiful blend of science and intuition.
So how do you approach this question?
Well, start off by talking about your research process.
Okay.
So how do you select your beans?
Uh-huh.
What factors do you consider?
Like, are you inspired by a particular origin?
Yeah.
Or a flavor profile?
That's right. Or maybe you want to pair it with a specific food.
That's cool.
Yes, so it shows that you have a curious mind.
Yeah.
And you're always up for experimentation.
And then you move on to the experimentation phase, right?
Yes.
You're adjusting the roast time, the temperature, the airflow.
all the things.
Yeah, to coax out those flavors.
You are a magician.
And then you're also constantly evaluating and refining your approach.
It's never a one and done thing.
It's a process.
It is a process.
Okay. And I think maybe RoleCatcher could be helpful here too.
It could.
Yeah, to get some insights into the company's specific roasting style,
That's right.
or maybe the types of flavors that they prioritize.
Plug that job description into the platform.
Yeah, and that way you can really tailor your answer to match their preferences.
You're speaking my language.
Now let's talk about something that I feel like is becoming increasingly important in every industry.
Yes.
Sustainability.
It's huge.
So how do you ensure that the roasting process is sustainable and environmentally friendly?
Well, this is your chance to show that you're not just a coffee expert. You are also a responsible steward of the planet.
So how do you do that?
Start by talking about energy efficiency.
Yeah?
Have you worked with roasters that prioritize energy conservation?
Yeah.
What are your ideas about reducing energy consumption in the roasting process?
Like maybe using energy-efficient roasters,
Yes.
optimizing batch sizes to minimize any wasted heat,
Yes.
or even exploring alternative energy sources like solar or wind power.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then move on to sourcing.
Okay.
Do you consider the sustainability practices of the farms that you source your beans from?
Uh-huh. Are you familiar with certifications like Fair Trade or Rainforest Alliance,
Yes.
which promote ethical and sustainable farming practices?
It shows that you're thinking about that whole supply chain.
Yes, from farm to cup.
Farm to cup.
Okay, and then what about waste reduction?
Waste reduction is a big one.
What do you do with all that chaff?
Well, coffee chaff is a byproduct of roasting, and it can actually be composted
Oh, wow.
or used as a soil amendment.
Okay.
So, have you implemented any waste reduction practices in your previous roles?
It's all about showing that you're mindful of your impact on the environment
Yes.
and that you're actively seeking ways to minimize it.
And you know what? This actually aligns with a lot of coffee companies' values these days.
Oh, for sure.
So it's a good way to show them that you're a good fit for their culture.
Okay, speaking of fitting in, let's talk about safety.
Okay.
How do you ensure that the coffee beans are roasted safely?
Good one.
It seems obvious, but I bet you there's more to it than meets the eye.
Absolutely. Safety should always be a top priority in any roasting environment.
Okay.
So let's start by talking about personal protective equipment.
Okay.
What kind of gear do you wear when you're roasting?
Like heat-resistant gloves,
Yes.
eye protection, a respirator.
Those are great examples.
Okay.
It just shows that you take personal safety very seriously and you're aware of the potential hazards.
Yeah.
And then after that, you can move on to equipment protocols.
Okay.
So, are you familiar with the proper operating procedures for that roaster?
Mm-hmm.
Do you conduct regular safety inspections?
Right.
Do you maintain a clean and organized workspace to minimize the risk of accidents?
So maybe you've implemented like a buddy system
Yeah.
for operating the roaster.
Yes.
Or you have a strict policy about keeping that roasting area completely free of clutter.
I love those.
Yeah.
That's great. It shows that you're proactive about safety and that you're really committed to creating a safe working environment.
Yeah. Not just for yourself, but for your colleagues as well.
For everybody.
Okay. Now, this next question is all about quality assurance.
Okay.
How do you ensure that the coffee beans meet quality standards?
Ooh, this is a big one.
Yeah.
This is where you really get to show your meticulousness and how dedicated you are to delivering a consistently excellent product.
Okay. So where do we begin?
Well, you're going to start by describing that sensory evaluation process. How do you evaluate the aroma, the flavor, the acidity, the body, and the aftertaste of those roasted beans?
Do you use a standardized cupping form to record your observations?
Mm-hmm. And have you had any experience with different cupping protocols?
Yeah.
Like the SCAA cupping protocol or the COE cupping form?
Right.
Those are great points to mention.
Okay.
Because it shows that you have a systematic approach to quality evaluation.
Yeah.
And that you are familiar with industry standards.
And it's not just about taste,
Right.
right? There's also objective measures that you can use to assess quality.
So true.
Yeah.
So talk about how you monitor those key metrics during the roast.
So like a colorimeter
Yes.
to measure bean color,
Uh-huh.
making sure that each batch is roasted to the desired level of darkness,
That's right.
or a refractometer
Yes.
to assess that extraction yield.
That's a good one.
Make sure you're getting optimal flavor and aroma from those beans.
Yes, you're getting the most out of those beans.
It's showing them you're not just relying on your subjective senses.
That's right.
You're using objective tools and measurements to ensure consistency and quality.
It's a beautiful marriage of art and science.
And of course, don't forget those detailed roasting logs.
Of course not.
So important.
They're your best friend.
Right. And before we move on,
Yes.
let's talk about how RoleCatcher can be valuable here
Oh, yes.
for refining your answers.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So their AI can analyze your responses and provide personalized feedback.
That's right.
So you can clearly and concisely articulate your process.
And they even have that video practice feature.
Right?
So you can record yourself
Yeah.
answering the question and get feedback on your delivery and your body language.
It's like having a virtual interview coach.
Right in your pocket.
Now, before we wrap up this section,
Okay.
let's talk about career paths.
Ooh, I like this.
Yeah. So what are some of the potential career trajectories for a coffee roaster?
Well, a career in coffee roasting can be very rewarding,
Uh-huh.
and it offers a lot of different growth opportunities. So with experience and the right skills, you can move into supervisory roles,
Okay.
like head roaster
Oh, wow.
or production manager,
Okay.
where you're overseeing the entire roasting operation.
So that's a great way to kind of take on more responsibility,
It is.
more leadership within a company.
Yes, and if you're really passionate about a specific type of roasting,
Uh-huh.
you could even specialize.
Okay.
So you could specialize in single origin roasting or blending.
So if you love Ethiopian beans or
Yes.
you love experimenting with different flavor combinations,
You could really carve out a niche for yourself.
and then there's always the entrepreneurial route,
Oh, yes.
starting your own roasting business.
For those with an entrepreneurial spirit,
Yeah.
that's a great option.
It's the dream for a lot of coffee enthusiasts.
It is.
Yeah. Having your own roastery.
Where you control every single step of the process.
It sounds challenging, but also rewarding.
It's both.
And luckily, the demand for high-quality specialty coffee is only growing.
Sure.
So it's potentially a very lucrative career choice.
And with platforms like RoleCatcher to help you along the way,
Yeah.
the possibilities are really endless.
So as we wrap up this part 2 of our deep dive into coffee roasting interviews,
Yes.
what are some of the key takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
Be authentic. Be enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Let your passion for coffee shine through in your answers.
Wow.
And don't be afraid to show off all that knowledge and experience that you have.
Yeah, and remember, every interview is a learning opportunity.
So true.
Even if you don't get the job,
Yes.
take the time to reflect.
Yes. What went well?
What could you improve on?
What could you do better next time?
And don't forget about all those amazing resources available.
RoleCatcher.
Yeah, platforms like RoleCatcher that can provide those valuable insights
Yes.
and feedback.
To boost that confidence.
All right, so go forth.
Embrace the challenge.
Let your passion for coffee roast bright.
Good luck and happy roasting.
Okay, so we've covered so much today.
We have
From roasting techniques to sustainability practices, interview tips, tricks.
the things.
We even touched on career paths.
Yes.
What does it all come down to?
Mhm.
What's that secret sauce to really nailing this interview?
Passion.
Passion.
Passion. You can learn techniques and processes.
Yeah.
But that genuine love of coffee,
Yeah.
that's what makes you stand out.
It's that spark in your eye when you talk about a good roast.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just loving coffee.
Okay.
It's that dedication to the craft, the
Yeah.
desire to learn and improve.
And that's not something you can fake.
You can't fake passion.
It shines through.
It really does.
The passion alone isn't enough.
That's true.
You have to back it up
Yeah.
with knowledge and preparation.
Absolutely.
And that's where all those practice questions come in.
Yes, practice makes perfect.
All those tips.
All the tips.
So it's like this blend.
It is.
Passion is the foundation.
Yes.
And then you have knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
which is like the finely tuned roast profile on top.
I like that analogy.
And then don't forget that final sprinkle of confidence.
Yes, confidence is key.
And that's where I think RoleCatcher can really help.
Absolutely.
Practicing your answers, getting that feedback.
It's like having a pace tester for your interview skills,
Right.
making sure everything is perfect
Before you serve it up.
before you serve it up to the hiring manager.
Because even with the best beans, that's the perfect roast profile.
Yeah.
If you lack that
It's
confidence,
not going to be as good.
that final cup isn't as satisfying.
It's true.
So I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay, hit me.
What unique flavor do you bring to the coffee world?
Ooh.
What is your signature roast?
Let that question simmer
Yeah.
as you're preparing for these interviews.
Yeah.
Because in a world full of coffee connoisseurs, you need to have something special.
Yeah, your personal touch.
Your personal touch is what makes you memorable.
It's like that final swirl of latte art
I love that.
that makes your cup stand out.
Beautifully said.
So go forth, embrace that challenge.
Let your passion roast bright.
Good luck.
Good luck!
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive.
That's a wrap.
We'll be back next time with another fascinating topic.
Oh, wait.
Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep that coffee brewing.